Hello, I'm Brandy Agerbeck of LooseTooth.com. I write, speak, and teach about drawing as your best thinking tool. I'm the author of The Idea Shapers, The Power of Putting Your Thinking into Your Own Hands. Now, this book is all about demystifying the complexity of visual thinking, of breaking down visual thinking into 24 discrete, concrete, and accessible idea shapers. Each idea shaper is a single visual thinking concept. Now, my job was to make them so simple, each one so simple and accessible that you read about it and you think, I can do that. And you put it into practice. And then you build idea shaper onto idea shaper until you're doing more and more complex and sophisticated visual thinking for yourself. Those 24 idea shapers are organized by a 5-step process. And I would love to introduce you to those 5 steps. Now imagine you've got some big task in front of you, some big pile of information you're dealing with. Step number 1 is to point at that pile of information and find one relevant chunk to pull it out. The key idea here is discernment. So it really is about pulling out and deciding what is most relevant, what is most useful for the task at hand, and pushing everything else aside, getting that focus and that clarity around what is relevant. Step number 2 is you pull out those relevant chunks and you start sorting and grouping them. Now here's where you start to find patterns. Here's where you start to pull out themes by grouping and categorizing those relevant chunks. Step number 3 is to connect and contain. So here you're taking those groupings, those ideas, those chunks that you sorted out, and you're drawing lines between them and lines around them to show how these different ideas relate to each other. So demonstrating the quality of these relationships through very simple lines, very simple shapes. The 4th step is scale, the pinky. And scale works 2 ways. One is, what is the scale of drawing you're creating and how does that shift your thinking? Are you expanding your thinking, blowing it up to deal with complexity, to deal with a ton of details? Or are you constricting your canvas into a very small space so you have to be more concise and clear in what you're saying? The second way scale works is the relative size of ideas within the drawing. So this is about hierarchy and organization. Now these first 4 steps, chunking, sorting and grouping, connecting and containing, and scale, you do these first 4 steps when you're tackling that big problem, and then you step back and you grasp your work in a new way. The 5th step is that magic. The 5th step is grasping. You do all sorts of analysis and organization and pushing stuff around. The grasp is the synthesis. Grasp is when you get that new insight that you would not have been able to get had you not sat down, created the drawing, and went through these first 4 steps. Now, when I say first 4, one thing to know is often these things are all happening at once. So this 5-step structure is simply a path to lead you through these 24 visual thinking concepts. But don't think that it's a linear process, that it necessarily happens in a straight line. I certainly tried to make it more sort of accessible and guide you through a process. But often things happen all at once. Some idea shapers you use, some idea shapers you won't. It's just sort of a sense of this is kind of the whole thing you're looking at. But really it's that 5th step, that grasp, which is what makes drawing so exciting. It is things like that new puzzle piece that just clicks into place. What I love is when you're making a physical drawing, you often get more physical cues in your body. So sometimes grasping is things like getting that sense of tension. And maybe you're making a big decision and you're feeling tense about it and you're like, I know I don't want to go there. Or that sense of like ease when you just hit on the right thing and you think like, that's the way this is where this needs to go. So those are some of the kind of things that can happen in that grasp stage. So again, those are the 5 steps. The 5 steps of the idea shapers. Within those 5 steps are the 24 specific idea shapers. Again, each one is a specific visual thinking concept. So if you would like to learn more, please pick up your copy of The Idea Shapers, The Power of Putting Your Thinking into Your Own Hands.